Sean and Robin, thanks for joining us. Congratulations on the film. I was very excited with it opening in Australia in a couple of days' time.
Thanks for having us.
Sean, first to you, say if you don't care then you don't scare. Tell us a little bit about what you mean by that in terms of directing a film like this.
I just meant by that comment I just meant if you don't care about the characters in peril then there can't be any suspense. So in a way The Loved Ones was a reaction to the style of horror that has cardboard cutout characterisation and a guy in a mask that just lumbers around stalking people. Because to me it's just not great drama unless you care about the people in peril. You can't be any suspense without characterisation. And a part of the development of the film sort of played off some real life psychos and nasties in the world. How important was that in sort of in trying to get that feel across? Well, it was important for me in terms of trying to get inside the head of a sociopath in a general way, to give me enough insight to be able to write a script without it feeling like it was cliched. Because I think horror always works best when you actually have a relationship with the monsters and the monsters are three-dimensional. So that was my starting point. I read a lot about Ed Gein, and he was kind of the emotional backbone for Psycho and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Silence of the Lambs, and also Jeffrey Dahmer, who actually coined the drilling technique, which I borrowed from quite liberally in The Loved Ones.
Robin, for you, what was the attraction of a film like this?
The number one attraction for me was that the lead villain was a female, and as soon as I read the script, my imagination started to run wild with just the scope of character, and just how kind of manic and wild and innocent and beautiful she was at the same time. She's kind of this very twisted combination of a little lost girl and a very vengeful psychopath.
Now you've had a lot of success on the stage, and I know you've been in previous films, but what are the big challenges for you in going from stage performing to a film set?
I suppose as a theatre actor you have control of the whole story from beginning to end, so you kind of, once the directors created the show with the actors, once you're on stage you then kind of command the space and the story by yourself, so it's kind of like running a marathon from beginning to end, whereas with film it's kind of I don't know, I feel like it's a bit more broken up, but the power of having a close-up is something that's really potent and something that's really fun to play with, that you don't get the opportunity to do in theatre.
Now, obviously actors are an important part of a film like this, but I suppose the next most important people are the special effects, and you used Justin Dixon at Wicked of Oz. Firstly to you, Robin, getting to these latex bodies and creating all those, a bit of an experience for you?
Yeah, it was really thrilling. I had to do a body cast. That was the first thing I did before we started shooting, and it feels like being entombed. I had my whole head covered, and I was breathing through two straws out of my nose, and I had to do a contorted face at the same time, and I just had to really meditate and just breathe. But yeah, I was completely fascinated by the whole prosthetics process, because there's such an artistry that is involved in making those pieces. That it really kind of opened my eyes to that whole side of horror, because I'm not actually a horror fan, ironically enough, but I became one.
Sean, who do you choose the graphics? Sorry, the special effects people, or is that something the producers do for you? Because it has to be a great deal of confidence, no doubt, in that crew.
Justin and his team at Wicked of Oz was my choice, and then I took that to the producers, and they do such good work. It was a very easy sell. So I had a lot of their other films to show us examples. And Justin he's just such a gung-ho horror fan. You know, it was great. Those guys bring so much enthusiasm to the set, the special makeup effects guys, because they just love what they do so much. And you know, he turned up for our first meeting in a pair of Elvis sunglasses, and we talked at length about Bruce Campbell from, you know, and who plays Ash in the Evil Dead series, and it was like, well, this is a match made in heaven.
Now, a criticism that can be made of these films is that everyone seems to try to outdo the other for gore and shock, and I suppose to some extent the drilling scene in this one was perhaps the next iteration. Is that a fair criticism of these films, or what differentiates these horror films at the end of the day in your mind?
Well, I mean, there are films out there that are labelled torture porn that are pretty bleak and nihilistic, and it's just about how inventive the kill can be. But you know, I actually see The Loved Ones as quite a human story, and the violence is a way that a character kind of communicates that knows no other, you know, that knows no other way. It's just the way that she's been taught. So hopefully there's a level of humanity in The Loved Ones that a lot of other horror films don't have, and there's also a certain levity as well. I didn't want the film to be an ordeal, and a lot of horror is an ordeal. I wanted the audience to be able to laugh as much as they scream, and to have, you know, tension breakers all the way through, and you know, it does have extreme horror, but it's also really it's a jet black comedy, and I think that you know, as a comedy horror, the fact that both those elements of the genre are quite fierce is what gives it its unique tone.
And Robin, the most difficult challenge for you in the film, acting in a film like this, is it sort of maintaining that normal demeanour while carrying around a drill? And what's the most difficult challenge for you?
I think definitely trying to keep myself out of a role like that. It's kind of a pretty daunting prospect to have to bring any part of yourself into that kind of state of mind. So I kind of approached it from a really creative point of view, and tried to find the joie de vivre in Lola's rituals. Yeah, so that was kind of my safety net, just keeping away, as far away from those kind of... I didn't want to get too dark and too evil, because that's already implicit, and I think, like Sean says, the film has such a great sense of humour. I wanted to bring a cheekiness and a playfulness to the character.
Yeah, it's a fun, freaky roller coaster ride, and people love to hate the villains, but you want The Loved Ones. It was very important that the tone remain playful, and that's why I love watching Robin's performance as Princess, because it's lonely, and it's shy, and it's kind of bratty, and it's sexy, and it's schizoid, and all the while it stays it stays within that kind of, you know, the great kind of playful glam horror vibe of the film.
Now, Robin, you've had some international exposure with some of your films already. What's next for you, or is it back to the stage? What attracts you more, the stage or the film?
I love both, but I'm having a little break from theatre, just as a challenge to myself, and I'm just going to go back to LA for pilot season in February, and see where that takes me. Yeah.
And Sean, you've done a number of shorts leading into this as your first feature. What's for you next? More, hopefully using this as a calling card for Hollywood or American roles?
Hopefully. It's been a really good calling card, and I'm attached to material both in the States and in Australia, as well as writing another project myself, which I'm really excited about. I sort of learned the hard way how difficult it is to get a film off the ground in Australia, so I'm trying to spread the net a little bit wider this time, and you know, hopefully the next project won't take too long.
I want to mention that because the producer Mark Mazarus says that after he'd seen the script for the first time, he said raising money would just be like that, and 4 years later it was still going on. What's that like for you as the writer and future director, to see that sort of process drag on?
It's just scary. Because there's no, we got so close so many times that I started to wonder, is this going to happen or not? It's very difficult to get a feature off the ground, and it can just sort of slip through your fingers, and the opportunity may never return. So I just did everything within my power, including making a short film that was also, you know, in the horror genre and had a similar look and a similar tone, and getting a mood reel together, which was like a fake trailer and a scrapbook and a director's statement, everything to create as much of a concrete case as possible, so that the financiers sort of had to go, right, all right, just we'll give you the money, just leave us alone now.
Well, Robin and Sean, all the best for the film when it opens and season in Australia, and for your next projects, and thanks very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.